Okay. Yeah. So today we'll discuss about the Apex trigger as well as Apex class. Yeah. Did you heard about the Apex trigger, guys?
Yes.
Yeah. What it does actually? Why we should write Apex trigger? Yeah. First, let me show you. So the first we need to have the syntax, right? Yeah. Trigger is the basic things to execute the Apex program. We should have strong knowledge on the Apex triggers concept. Yeah. So what is meant by Apex trigger?
Trigger is in general whatever may be the action performed. There is a action performed.
Okay.
It's piece of code. It will execute before or after the action.
Trigger is a piece of code.
It will execute
It will execute
before a action or after action.
immediately whenever the actions needed. So here there are two different actions. See, we are creating a record and we are updating a record, or we are deleting a record. There are basically three actions are there. Coming to the triggers part, so we will consider as two parts. So one is before trigger, another one is after trigger. So coming to the before trigger, what are the transactions you want to perform within the record level? We will go with the before trigger only. If you want to do any performance on the after saving the record, we should go with the after triggers only. So basically, there are two kinds of triggers: before trigger and after trigger. So actually, the trigger will execute immediately. So why we should execute in immediate way? Let's say, for example, you are inserting a record, account record. So if you implemented any logic with the help of Apex programming, that particular logic is inserting a contact records. So with the help of account ID, like when you created any account, with the help of account information, if you want to create a contact. So in that case, if you implemented any trigger, that trigger will execute immediately, like before saving the record. It automatically create a new contact because of the trigger can execute immediate way. Automatically it is checking with the backend logic. It can create a new contact record. So always you should remember there are two type of triggers available in Salesforce, before and after. When it is a before transaction, we'll write before trigger. Since it is a after transaction, we'll write the after trigger events. Yeah, there are some events available, trigger events. So we'll execute our entire Salesforce logics within these events only. So what are the events? So as I said, there are two triggers: before, insert, comma, or update. Insert, update, delete. Simply you should remember insert, update, delete. That's it. For the before trigger, the same. For after trigger, after insert, after update, after delete, but within the after trigger there is one more extra DML after undelete. Okay, we are having one more additional trigger event called undelete, but before undelete is not available. So these are the trigger events available within the triggers concept. So it depends on the requirement. We'll write the trigger events within the trigger. We'll execute the functionality, the logic, whatever we implemented within the Salesforce Apex classes. But these trigger events are the important thing. These will play crucial part in the execution. These are the trigger events. So what is the syntax for the trigger? What is the trigger? Subject. See, this is the trigger syntax. Yeah. So this is the trigger syntax, guys. Trigger name on the S object. So within these brackets, we must write all these trigger events for best practice, because of only one object can have only one single trigger. We can create multiple triggers. For the best practice, we should go with the single trigger only. So that's the reason what we have to do. We should add all these trigger events inside the brackets. Inside these brackets, for the best practice, we should write all the trigger events. So basically, this is the syntax for the trigger. So now we are having the trigger. So let's say, for example, if you want to perform any operation within the any object, see, trigger can access the object and trigger can execute within these events, and trigger can receive the data from the Salesforce objects. Yeah, let's tell me, guys. Let's say, for example, now I'm writing a new trigger. Trigger name is account trigger. Here, if I go with the account object, if I click on submit, this is the way to create a new trigger. From file, select new and select Apex trigger, and you will receive this page. Here you will provide the trigger name and you should select the object information. Once you click on the submit button, automatically, yeah, the duplicate. I think you already have the trigger. Open. Account trigger already is there. I think someone created. See, so this is the trigger, guys. As per our syntax, trigger name or S object. Here the object is account, and these are the trigger events before insert and before update. This particular trigger will execute only before creating a record and before updating a record. So in these two conditions, this trigger will fire and it can perform whatever the business logics available within these two events. But for best practice, what I said, we should maintain all these trigger events. Let me add it here. Now our trigger can handle any event, and after that we should separate with the if conditions. Like let's say, for example, if you want to execute any operation on before inserting the record, again there is a concept called trigger context variables. These context variables can receive the data, just like how the variable can store the data. So inside the variable, the same way, trigger is having some set of context variable. Those trigger context variable can store the data while doing any operations. Trigger context variables. Yeah. What are the trigger context variables? So there are lots of trigger context variables available. Like is before is one type of context variable. Is update is trigger context variable. But in our real-time experience, while working with the triggers, very frequently you will get the trigger context variables like trigger.new, trigger.new map, single keyword, trigger.old, dot old map. See, these four are the context variables, guys. So whatever the data we are modifying, first we will receive within the trigger. So in our trigger concept, these four context variables can store the data, whatever the data we are receiving it from the data modeling, like from the object side. You can check with the trigger context variables from the developer guide. Yes, these are the variables, and you can see the usage part. But these things we are very frequently using. But coming to the trigger context variables, new map, old and old map. So the new map will store the new version of data. New version of data in the sense whatever the data we are creating or updating. So those things will be stored under trigger.new context variable and trigger.new map context variable. So if you have any requirement on the insert, update, and undelete triggers, then the trigger.new will receive the data. The same way, the new map also receive the data, but it doesn't have any before insert data. See, trigger.new map is not working for the before insert, but the new can work before insert and after insert. But this is only work for after insert functionality. It is not working for the before insert. So there are some minor changes in between these four context variables. You can go through this context variable document and identify the gap in between each and every context variable. The same way, coming to the old. So the trigger dot old and old map. These two context variables will work for the update and delete. It doesn't work for the insert triggers. So insert event. If you are trying to insert any records, so the old and old map is not able to store your record information. For insert event, only new and new map will work. And coming to the delete part, so the old map can store the delete event records. New and new map will not store any delete event records. These four are the minor changes, guys. Later on, you can go through this document and try to analyze the things. See, here they clearly mentioned in the note. The record firing trigger can include an individual field value, such as a formula that divide by 0. In this case, the field value is set to null. See, let's say this is just an example, guys. If you are performing any formula field, see that formula field is dividing any 0 values. So those records will not accept within these four context variables. Yeah. Okay, let's move to the apex trigger. Yeah, so these are the event we already specified in our account trigger. Now I should divide the trigger event like before insert. If you want to access any data in before insert operation, so this is the syntax within the if condition. See, trigger dot is before is a context variable and double up trigger dot is update. So this trigger event will execute what are the transactions available in before event functional, before update event. So let me write the debug logs to test that functionality. System.debug trigger.new or before update. Trigger.new. See, trigger.new is the context variable. I'm writing the data like while before updating the data. If my trigger.new is able to store the record or not, we will check it through the execution. Let me write for all the events. There are four events, trigger.new and new map dot old and old map. Yeah. Let me save this trigger. Yeah, so we have the trigger, it's the active trigger, and we are calling all the trigger events. And line number 2, we are having the before update condition. In this before update, we are calling all the trigger events like trigger.new, new map, old and old map. These are in the system.debug, like what are the data you are modifying. Automatically, these context variables receive the data. Let me show you. Let's say, for example, you can update any account record. See, now I'm in the account. Before that, let me check with the log files. See, there are no log files available as of now. Let me update account record. See, from the detail page, I'm updating a phone number value. 1, 2, 3, 4. If I save this record, see, as I said, trigger will execute immediately. So as of now, account object is having a trigger. In backend, the trigger must execute and it will perform what are the logic inside the particular trigger. Go to this here, yeah. Here you can see the log file. See, one log file is generated, that status is showing success. You can refer this log file and click on debug only because of we are having multiple debug logs. See, here you can see the information like trigger.new on before update. So before updating, you can check with the phone number field value. Here it must show the null value only because of before updating the record, the phone number is empty, correct? Control F, phone, it is not there. Mobile. Anyone can identify the phone number value. Phone is there. Name, record type ID, parent ID, billing city, shipping. Yeah, I think this log file is not generated. Let me update relevant one. Let's say, for example, there is a name, account name, Samsung is there. See, in every log file, here you can see the account name is Samsung. Here also Samsung. So these are the trigger events like old map, new map. Okay, let me update the account name. Samsung to test your variable. I save this record. Again in backend, there is a trigger operation will happen. See, if you refer this log file, within these logs, we can identify the difference between new and new map, old and old map. See, trigger.new and before update. In before update, trigger.new will receive the data, but here you can identify the name. So before updating the before update, this will consist of new version of data. You can see the name test trigger variable. See, it is a updated value. But if you go with the trigger.old and before update, you can see the name information Samsung. Because of before updating, the data will be stored under trigger.old only. So here you can see the name is Samsung. In trigger.new, you can see the updated information. Test trigger variable. The same way, you can compare with the new map and old map. In the new map, here you can see the name, trigger, test trigger, the same time. So within the old map, the name will be Samsung. So this is for the update. So in update condition, we will receive all the trigger event variables. We will receive the data within all trigger event. The same way, if you want to receive the data for before insert, this is before update. If you want to receive the same kind of data and before is insert, Let me say trigger.none before insert. This log file is for the before insert operation. Let me create a new record, an account. I am creating a new record. Test context variable. Let me save it. Yeah, the record is saved and you can go through the log file. So the log file is generated. If you open this log file from the debug only, see only 4 logs are generated. See trigger only 4 logs are generated, but within these 4 logs only trigger.new will receive the data because of we are performing before insert operation. See, in our trigger we are having before update and before insert events, and we created a record, so automatically it comes under the before insert operation. So automatically it generates a log file, and within this log file the trigger.new is having the record information. New map is not having the record information, and old map is not having the record information because of, as I said, if it is an insert functionality, old map will never receive any context variable data because of the trigger.old map will works for only update and delete triggers, not for the insert triggers. Yeah, here you can see. So before inserting the record, the ID value will be null, and you can see the name information is just constructor variable. So the trigger.new will return the data, but the ID is null. Because of before creating a record, Salesforce doesn't generate any ID. So that's the reason here it is showing the ID is called null. And coming to the difference between new and new map. So while inserting a data, if it is a before condition, only new will access the data, but new map will never access the data. Let's say, for example, if I write one more condition for after insert, this is before is insert is after insert. Yeah, this is for after insert. Let's say, for example, if I insert one more record, insert variables. I save this record. Yeah, can anyone guess how many log files will be generated? 4 or 8 log file. Sorry, 4 debug logs or 8 debug logs. So now I'm doing a after insert operation. So in after event, there are 4 debug logs. In before insert, there are 4 debug logs. Total, how many logs will be generated? If I open this log.
I think 6.
Why it is 6? Whether it will be 8 or it will be a 4. You said
I
it's
think it will be 4.
4. 4 is not correct answer because of for every transaction, trigger will check each and every uh, trigger event. Now we are performing the insert operation. So in our account trigger, before insert is there, after insert is there. In before insert, we are having 4 debug logs. In after insert, we are having another 4 debug logs. Total 8 debug statements will be generated. And again, within these 8 debug statements, how many context variables will receive the data? That is important. Yeah, don't get confused. If I open the log file, see, as I said, old map will never access any kind of insert data. So you can remove 4 from 8. So again, 4 is there. Within the 4, how many will receive the data? Only 3. In before insert, new map will not access any kind of data because of before inserting the data, there is no new map function. But after inserting the record, if you identify For before insert, the trigger.new is not having any record ID. After that, you can see the trigger context variable after insert. After insert is having record ID and it is having all other field information. But if you compare with the new and new map, or before insert and after insert is having new map information. Because of after inserting the data, new map will can access the record ID first. After that, it will receive the record information. Yeah, guys, did you understand? See, these things are very, very important. The trigger events and trigger context variables. Again, what context variable can store which type of data? If you get this flow, you will be in master and Apex programming. So the entire programming will be depending on the trigger context variable if it is a synchronous Apex transactions. Yeah. Any idea, guys?
Sir, actually, can you tell the example of ATM machine in this link?
See, if you go with the
So,
ATM example, while inserting the ATM card, okay, which comes to the trigger dot, which context variable? New, absolutely, because we are doing a transaction. It's a
new
new
transaction.
automatically it's a new version of data. It will store under the trigger.new context variable only. Again, before withdrawing your currency, if you are checking with the balance, again that comes to the which transaction? Before withdrawal or after withdrawal? Before withdrawal transaction. Here you can consider before trigger. So before withdrawing, you are trying to check your balance. So that comes to the before trigger and it will store the data in before trigger. Again, it is a new version of data. It can store which context variable trigger.new or new map. Again, after withdrawing the transaction, if you want to receive any mobile alert or email alert, that comes to the after trigger. So again, the data will be stored under after which value? See, don't get confused, guys. So if it is after transaction, it will store in trigger.new map because of it's a new version of data. And after that, if you want to perform any post withdrawal operations, like if you are updating any record, that comes to the update functionality. So automatically your trigger.old will receive the data if you are having any update functionality. For insert, only new and new map will work. For update, old and old map will be work. Yeah, got it, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, guys. 7:30 I'm having. Yeah, is that?
Yeah, this is Shanta.
Yes, please.
Actually, how we are connecting the object, the account object with this particular trigger?
See, within the trigger syntax, so basically while writing a trigger, we must select a object. Without having object information, you cannot cannot create any trigger.
Okay.
So automatically this trigger will works for only account object.
So
Whatever
we
the
don't need to go in the object manager account. We no
no,
need to select anything. Just directly we can write our code in this Apex.
yeah. So while creating a new Apex trigger,
Okay.
so you must provide the object information.
Oh, got it, sir.
Yeah, automatically it will connect with that particular object only. It doesn't check with any other object.
Got it. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Any questions, guys? Yeah. So here I created only for 3 context variables, and these three are the log files. I mean, the same kind of code you should implement on your developer editions, because of after 3 months you will be removed from this sandbox access. At that time, if you want to refer your code, it's not possible. Okay, so try to copy the same code and try to perform in your developer edition account. So then your code will be with you for permanent mode. Yeah, I'll share this code in the chat. And for tomorrow's session, I'll continue this trigger concept and I'll write one sample Apex class as well. But before that, why I'm stopping here? See, if I continue this particular session, definitely you are not able to understand. I know that pain because of what kind of trigger context variable store what kind of data. So this sync is important. So just go through this context variables. Here they have provided some sample class and triggers as well. Just try to implement these classes and triggers inside your DGR. After that, if I explain in proper way, definitely you will get the trigger concept. Okay, and before that, just look into this variable part and the usage part. If you are trying to write any insert operation, so you must have the is insert logic because of is insert variable, because of this is only to retrieve the data for insert operations. Without having is insert variable, you cannot perform any insert operation. The same thing for the update, is update. And again, it's a before or update. If it is a before logic, you will go for the is before variable. If it is after logic, you can go for the is after. And these were the special things: new map, old and old map. So just try to go through this document and try to analyze something and come back with some basic knowledge and trigger context variables. Automatically you will get the flow of our tomorrow session. Yeah. Okay, guys, if you have any questions, we'll discuss.
Yeah, Mahesh, can you send that code?
Yeah, I'll share.